Hello, first grade. Welcome. Excuse me. We are going to be reading a story today, but first, I want to tell you what we are focusing on this week. We are focusing on characters and the characters in our stories. We're going to be reading a bunch of stories by Kevin Henkes. This one we've already read before called Chrysanthemum, but it's one of my favorites, so I thought we could read it again and look at the character in our story. We can figure out what the character is like on the outside and like on the inside. So, the outside just means what they look like, their physical traits. How this girl is a mouse, she's wearing a bow, she's white, she's wearing a pink dress. Those are all her physical traits. But what is she like on the inside? We have to read the story to find out. We can use the pictures to help us and the words. So let's find out. And first, we're going to look at a story we've already read before, Tiger in My Soup. Think about how this boy is like on the outside. He's wearing a striped shirt. He has a thing on his head that he's using as a shield, remember? He has brown skin and glasses and black hair. That's what he's like on the outside, but what was he like on the inside? Remember, he was super imaginative and he loved to read and liked to imagine things. And that's what we found out through the story. So let's read Chrysanthemum and think about what this character is like on the outside and the inside. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She's perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father, and she was. She was absolutely perfect. Her name must be everything that she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father, and it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called for her dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect, and then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile, and she ran all the way. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school! So let's take a look at this picture right here. I can see on the outside, Chrysanthemum is wearing a sunny dress, and the author tells me that she is wearing a sunny dress. I can also see her smile in the picture, and the author tells me that she has a bright smile. I can see that she's running, and the author also tells me that she's running. She's excited for school. So I can see all these things on the outside, and then on the inside, I can tell that she is excited. But when Mrs. Chud took roll, everyone giggled when they heard Chrysanthemum's name. It's so long, said Joe. It hardly fits on your name tag, said Rita. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria, and you're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. So let's look at this picture. The author says that Chrysanthemum wilted, kind of like when a flower wilts and gets lower. So I can see her in the picture. She is looking sad now. That's how she feels on the inside. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with exactly 13 letters. That's half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. Thank you for sharing, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. If I had a name like yours, I would change it, Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It hardly fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, stop, said her mother. Your name is beautiful. And precious and priceless and fascinating and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. It's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum felt a lot better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and games called Parcheesi. This game is called Parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was a nice dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable dress. She walked to school slowly, and she dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Let's look at this picture. So she wore her comfiest jumper. Why would she wear her comfiest jumper? And she dragged her feet in the dirt. These are all things we can see on the outside about Chrysanthemum. So how do we know how she feels on the inside? If she's dragging her feet, she just wanted to wear a comfy dress, and she walked really slow to school. How does she feel? She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum came to the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, A chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum. So I can also figure out that Chrysanthemum really lets things get to her, right? That's how she kind of is on the inside. She gets really upset when other people are saying things about her. But she shouldn't care. She should own her name. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, stop, said her mother. They're just jealous and envious and begrudging and disconnected and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum felt a little better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and Parcheesi. Her dad is reading a book to try and help her. It's called Understanding Identity. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals, and Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. So she's really letting this affect her on the inside. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions, her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest way possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. So I can see on the outside that it's raining. She's holding a yellow umbrella, and she's wearing her outfit with 7 pockets to fill with good luck charms. She might be hopeful today. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her, and the students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales, and they assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen, and Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess, and Jo was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger, and Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. And Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so funny?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Jo. "It hardly fits on her name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria, "and she's named after a flower." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is," said Jo. "My name wouldn't fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It wouldn't," said Rita, pointing. "And," said Miss Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower, too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering naming her Chrysanthemum. I think it's absolutely perfect." Chrysanthemum could hardly believe her ears. She blushed, she bleamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Let's take a look. So the author is saying that she's blushing, she's beaming, and she's blooming. So we can see that on the outside. The little white mouse that's wearing her shirt with 7 pockets is blushing and beaming. That means smiling. So how do we know how she feels on the inside? A lot better, right? Jo, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. "Call me Marigold," said Jo. "I'm Carnation," said Rita. "My name is Lily," said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. So I can tell how confident she has started to feel on the inside. Overall, the class musical was a huge success, and Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria only made one mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the dainty fairy queen, and Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance. Eventually, Mrs. Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. So we can think about this story and notice how Chrysanthemum looks on the outside and figure out how she is on the inside, right? She's easily influenced by others, but she just needed that one person to stick up for her to believe in herself. Hope you enjoyed.